Hey everybody, Josh Sigurdson of World Alternative Media here, and we are joined by Kingsley Edwards, and this is a very, very important video, and we should have brought it to you sooner because this is a story that you'll all want to share. Imagine being caught with a bit of cocaine and then being sentenced to potentially as much as 60 years in prison. And that is the case with Kingsley's father, Michael Edwards, who has been in already for about 26 years now, and most of your life. I wanted to ask you, because we've got a big story coming up here where it looks like on the 22nd of May, he will finally have a hearing, and we don't know which way that will go, but we would only hope for some form of, mercy in this case. So can you, first of all, before we get into that, can you talk about how this all developed and what led to today?
Yeah, so in 1993, his ex-girlfriend had basically narked on him with the cops, and he got busted with $800 worth of cocaine. Now, he was involved with a lot of things that were happening, to be frank, with Florida and cocaine, the cocaine cowboys and all that kind of stuff going on then. So there was a big, there was
a big market.
Yeah, it was a big market. I mean, there was banks that had like billions of dollars in drug money, and full police forces were basically disbanded because they were involved with the cartel. So it was just a crazy time. And
yeah, there's enough movies on it.
Yeah, absolutely. So he that happened, and he basically they gave him a plea deal. I think it was for 15 years, and he thought that he had a chance to go to court and say his piece. So he went to courts, and then they basically threw the book at him, and they told him this, but he was also a young guy. I mean, this was 26 years ago. He was I think like 30 years old or less at the time. So he basically got screwed for this small amount of cocaine. I mean, fast forward, I think like a year or two later, the ex-girlfriend who narked on him, who knew me, I don't remember her, I was young at the time, and knew his mother, my grandmother, great woman. She ended up committing suicide because she was so upset with what she had done. And now, fast forward, it's 25 years later. It's just so ridiculous. I mean, marijuana's legal. I've seen signs for legalized recreational cocaine, but that's not a real thing. But it's just like we're getting more the drug war is obviously a failure.
Yeah, well, I wanted to actually get into that a bit before we go any further. Is that we have to remember the time frame that we're talking about here, not just with the drug industry in Florida, but also the tough on crime, war on drugs, going from the Reagan years to the Bush years to Clinton's three strikes and you're out initiative, which they were basically trying to make a point of people at the time, saying that if you had 3 strikes or so, you're gonna spend the rest of your life in prison. And it's a horrible thing looking back at it. It's so primitive looking back on it, but that was the way things were at that time. And I wanted to ask yourself, how old were you at the time, and how did it affect your childhood?
I think it was 8 or 9, at the time. So I basically grew up without a father because of this. I mean, it's a sad situation, and feel bad for my whole family. I mean, he's got a sister, he has another son. And he has, his mother, my grandmother, who's just the sweetest lady in the world.
I've met her. She's awesome.
Yeah. So, it's affected us a lot. And now it's, 26 years later, and we're still, basically trying to get their attention to be like, hey, this is ridiculous. Even the former DA has come out, the former judge has come out and said, he had a hearing years ago, and they just said, it's unfortunate the way things are. This is about, I think, 10 plus years ago, but it's legal of what happened.
Well, under what logic is there in throwing a person in prison in a cage, kidnapping them and putting them in a cage for so many years for a victimless crime? I'm sure he had problems. I'm sure he had issues. But with that said, how does it help the individual or the people involved in that situation by putting them through such incredible torture over all these years? Prison is not easy. Anyone that spent even a couple days in a cell knows that that is torture. And to spend 26 years behind bars it's unthinkable for anyone, because no one can possibly conceive of the kind of mindset you'd be in after all those years, especially especially in a situation where you didn't hurt anybody. Some people will say, well, it's connected to things that might have hurt people. People make their own decisions in life, and some of them are very bad, and you have to learn from those lessons. But in what way does someone really learn from their lesson when they have no chance to actually make up for the lessons they've learned, when they're stuck in a cell their entire life with people, murderers, rapists, pedophiles, that have gone into the same cages around that person and has been let go long ago? I mean, how many people has your father seen come in there for much worse crimes and just disappear?
Yeah, it's so sad. I mean, every day he sees people that have rapes, murders. There was one case, I can't remember exactly, but it was I think a father killed his own son that same year, and he got like 19 years. So he got let out. Yeah, it's just the way things were. And yeah, the 3 strikes rule was basically, what got him. And, at the time, like I said, the money was attractive. He had an actual problem. He had an addiction to it as well. And, even being in 26 years, he's told me like he's never had one day of rehabilitation, actually. It's just been prison. It's just been, torture.
Well, and I should mention also that at that time, we now know all these years later that the United States government was involved in the cocaine trade as it is. So the same government that put him in prison in the cell for all these years and spent also an insane amount of taxpayer money putting him in a cage all these years and putting him through that struggle, the same government was also running cocaine and guns into cartel territory while making it illegal here and creating a huge market that he might have been involved in and many other people might have been involved in because they saw lucrative possibilities involved in that, no matter what you might think of it. And I have to mention, there's a man many years ago who cut off a man's head on a bus, and he ate part of that man and went to jail for, I believe it was 2 or 3 years, and was let out because there was a mental health issue and he needed help. And this is a guy who cannibalized someone. I think if anything, cocaine addiction is a mental health issue. And in what way is it going to solve a mental health issue by throwing them in a cage for the rest of their life? So with this recent story coming out about this hearing, can you go into what it would entail and what it could mean for your father?
So he filed for clemency. Florida doesn't have parole. So he filed for clemency years ago. I think it was like 2012 or 2013. They were so backlogged in clemency cases as people came up. And this is actually an organization within the Florida state government that has millions of dollars of funding per year. Yet they hire like very little people, or not that many people to overlook all the files. So that they have like a huge backlog. So finally they're getting to his case, which is great. So there's a meeting on the 22nd where my aunt and my grandmother will be there. Unfortunately, I can't make it this time. I met with them previously in 2016, and hopefully it goes well. So yeah, they're basically reviewing his file right now, and hopefully the verdict is that, hey, it's time to let him out, because he's not violent. He doesn't have like any bad things while he's been in prison. He's a smart guy. He's a great guy. He's a businessman. He's made a lot of money. He's lost him a lot of money, and now it's time for him just to get out and reset his life. He has a family waiting. He has friends waiting. He has a job. He has a place to stay. Everything's set for him. They just need to let him go.
He's definitely got a background in business. I mean, it is a business one way or another, whether it's legal or illegal. It is a business, and that mind can be used for some really good things. And what are his plans? Because I know he wrote a letter to the press a while back ago, and I've gone over that. And it was kind of like a plea to just look at this case and consider it and understand that he was young at the time and he's older now, and he's learned lessons and all that kind of stuff. What are his plans hopefully once, not if, but hopefully once he's out of prison?
Yeah, he's going. My aunt runs a construction business, so he's going to be helping with her. And he's already helped out from prison, doing business plans and all this kind of stuff, marketing strategies, all that. He's super smart guy. I mean, he's helped me with my own startups and companies as well.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is a big. It's a rallying call to a lot of people, because imagine if your father, your brother, or your son ended up, in a bad situation in their own life, and instead of them being able to fix that situation, their entire life was ruined and their families' lives were affected so dramatically by such a horrible thing like being thrown in a cage for the rest of your life. Nobody deserves to be in prison for 60 years for something like that. Nobody deserves to be in prison for 26 years for a thing like that. Nobody deserves to be thrown in a cage for so long that it just completely destroys their life and hurts the people around them. And it's a horrible thing. It needs to be understood, and people need to do something about it. There is a petition out there that people can get involved in. Can you tell people where they could find that?
Yeah, it's on change.org. If you look up Michael Edwards, it's, I think, Michael Edwards, give Michael Edwards his freedom back or something like that. Maybe we can hopefully link it in the description. But yeah, we have, I think, over 5,000 signatures right now, so, and growing. So those help out a lot. Please, if you can, please sign this petition. It only takes less than a minute. And it just shows that there's support for, you know, freeing him.
Yeah. Well, we will link it below. Make sure to check that out. And hopefully next time we talk about this situation, because it is May 22nd that we will be seeing this hearing take place. Hopefully next time we talk about this situation, when we do give you an update on this, it'll be talking with Michael and yourself. And hopefully this problem ceases to be a problem any longer, because we need to take a second look at how we view society when we are throwing people in cages for so long for something like this. It's wrong on every level, and it's immoral. And, you know, as people will say, well, it's immoral to sell cocaine, it's immoral to have possession, it's immoral to throw someone in a freaking cage for their whole life. I don't know how anyone in the year 2019 could think differently, regardless of what you think about cocaine or the war on drugs. Obviously, a lifetime in prison is absolutely wrong in every way. So thank you for going into this with us, and we will be back at you with much more on this subject in the near future, and hopefully we will be giving you good news. So make sure to sign that petition linked below. And until next time, this is Josh Sigurdson with Kingsley Edwards signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth, be the change. Like what you see here, OM? Don't forget to check the links below. GoFundMe, Patreon. We can't do it without you. Any donation is very much appreciated, especially as we are so heavily demonetized and censored by YouTube, as these guys come in and flag all of our content as hate speech. The shadow banning is getting really bad, guys. Also, check our Bitcoin address right here on the screen or in the description below. We really appreciate it. And of course, check us out at the Red Pill Expo 2019. Of course, the great G. Edward Griffin and so many other incredible speakers will be there. Our link for that is below as well. And we cannot forget Mike Maloney's goldsilver.com, which you can also find in the description. One of the greatest market and monetary historians out there. We really encourage everyone to check that out. But until next time, this is Josh Sigurdson signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth, be the change.
I'm sure you have already changed people's minds in your young age because you're involved, and I like that.